Right, so this intersection between Hertford Street, Bull Yard, Dresden Place, Christchurch Spiral, Greyfriars is quite an important point in the story of the redevelopment that's due to happen. Underneath me is Greyfriars Gate itself. The city wall runs off over there, as you can see, with the marked out bricks. And there's a lot going on. We've still got the Methodist Church, we've still got one of the spires, we've got Phoenix, the public artwork that started life almost at Laird Precinct, and then of course Bull Yard, and leading off to Shelton Square, and the Literary Building, which is older than it looks. It was reclad in the 50s, but is actually an Edwardian building, birth of the Rover car factory, and the showroom, which it was for some time before having many different uses, including the architects department for Donald Gibson, hence it being cladded in the similar style brick as the precinct. So a lot of the buildings for Upper Precinct were designed whilst the team were based here, and that is due for demolition. So as soon as I cross from the resin into the pavement, everything you see will be demolished, including Bull Yard, which used to have a dual carriageway running round it, and you may know of the famous Jaguar advert with the car in front of the 3 Tons pub over there, and obviously 3 Tons mural, which is the only listed thing in this area. City Wall obviously continuing to run along here, under the pavement, and it's marked out in the bricks. So quite an historical intersection that has had a lot of changes, and of course with any scheme, things have changed over the years. Thread Through Time, this piece of work from the late 90s, is actually made up of components and sort of rubble from the nearby Rolls-Royce factory at Paradise Street, which sort of picks up where this sort of urban mining is continuing. It's sort of a original shot at that. So a brief mention about 3 Tons, or the chicken shop. 3 Tons mural behind me by William Mitchell, done in 1966, built for this particular area. It's not, it was cast on site. Will be moved, so it will be moved to Rover Road by the market. So while we're here looking at 3 Tons, it's important to note that was the first intervention of the scheme by William Mitchell. The end of the scheme is the top of Hertford Street there, the concrete reliefs on the side of the building, which was completed in 1974. So you can see between that time span a whole host of other buildings were added, but all following the 20-foot module plan that most of the other shopping areas had followed since Gibson. This was followed on from Arthur Ling, who did the market in Shelton Square, where I'm now walking, and Terence Gregory, who finished off Bull Yard and pedestrianised the street, which we will get to as we continue this walk. So Shelton Square has obviously changed a lot over the years as well. Leading off to Bull Yard is the Duncow sculpture by Alma Ramsey. That started life on Broadgate pretty much, and that's where it's going to end up in the redevelopment. It's going to be moved. Now this area is obviously looking very tired at the moment. It had a bit of work done in the 90s to remove the fountain that was here. In fact, that had gone long before then actually, and there was a set of steps here that would lead up to the second level of shops and ultimately the office block above, which is Market Chambers, long since disused. The rooftop parking continues across both sides of Market Way, and there used to be the building was connected across. You can see where the white cladding is. That used to be part of the building, so everything was interconnected, and I think only rooftop parking will remain on the market going forwards. But again, the city wall runs through here. This will be almost public realm in the new scheme. It'll be a park leading to the market. All these buildings will be gone, and the market will be front and centre, which currently is hidden in a service yard and I think that will be a big win because the market is listed and will remain. So if you head off Market Way, you get to Upper Precinct, which is the Gibson sort of plan after the war. All the low-rise Scandinavian modernism with brick, that's all listed, has been recently redeveloped. So the new scheme will basically link into that and will follow the same street pattern. It'll link in, and the lower rise buildings will be that end, and there'll be taller buildings as we go. Here in the arcade, again, another Arthur Ling section of the post-war scheme. It will all be demolished, but we're sort of walking into phase 2 of the scheme, which I think is yet to be determined. All behind here would have been the Rover factory originally, which is where the Litten Tree is. There's a big sort of space, but yeah, as you can see, I mean, there are still some traders down here, but it will all be gone soon. All these shops were vibrant and busy in the 60s. This was the shop sort of centre, really. This was the place to be, and you can find a lot of archival photos of what that looks like. All again following a similar small shop footprint, taking inspiration from Europe again. And yeah, then we head out to Queen Victoria Road. So as we head up the road, you can see former IKEA, which is an important part of this story because it will be a cultural gateway with the British Council, the Arts Council, the uni, and lots of other things. And it will be facing the new scheme. So Iceland, former Iceland building, and this patch of ground which has been left vacant for 20 years when the clock was removed. And you can see the frame of the clock tower is still sitting in that patch of ground, but this will be one of the first buildings built, actually, and it'll be a bit taller than the car park, but a lot of these things are scaled to match the surroundings a little bit. But Rover Road here will remain, and 3 tons will be going in public realm pretty much on this street, which it's hard to imagine looking at the moment. But again, because the market is here, it's going to be front and centre of any new scheme rather than being at the back of a service yard. The servicing will come from the front, underneath the new building that will be in this patch of ground, rather than all the traffic going around the back here. So it will sort of drastically change the way the market operates. Some ideas for the market that aren't necessarily directly part of the scheme but could be brought forward are restoring what it looks like from the outside, because there are 16 originally units that would face outwards. Some have been bricked up, some have been changed. You can sort of see where different awnings would have been, and obviously all the shutters are different, the paint scheme is different, and it will be detached from the car parking, because this building will be gone and will basically be stood at the front of the market going forward. This will be public realm, green space, heading into the market. Looking back along Market Way towards Shoughton Square, I'll try and intersperse some pictures of what that might look like, because there are some pretty big buildings that will be going this side. I think the tallest building will be 18 stories, which is quite different to what we have today. Low rise, sort of passageways and public areas, but there's lots to look at from a sort of urban mining perspective. All the original timbers from the canopies are still on Market Way, and you know, it was seen as quite a vibrant area. There was a lot of there was public art originally along here. The trees were a later addition by one of the shops, I think. One of the original shops paid for some trees to be put in, and there was lots of public art, as there was in the rest of the scheme. And again, some may remember Coventry Point was here, which was a 13-storey building, which was a tall building for the city centre, and was sort of bookended the precinct with Hillman House at the other end. and Mercia House at the lower precinct. So that was here. So again, as soon as we end the resin, that's the end of the scheme. All the rest of these buildings have obviously been redeveloped recently. Fraser Group have taken on the old BHS and sorted all that out. So once we hit the pavement, that's the end of City Centre South. And it's also the end of where the developers can change things. So some of the public artwork that will be moved will be around here, I believe. So you get a good flavour of the size of the scheme with Barrett's car park unveiled there, and Hertford House at the top, which is where a 28-foot long mural by William Mitchell is in situ. A replica of which will be placed on the building that goes here on Market Way. So these two areas here will be some of the first to be redeveloped. Social housing is going here, and they should connect with the rest of the precinct. And Phoenix, the sculpture by George Wagstaff at the bottom of Hertford Street, should also go here somewhere, because originally it started life down the bottom of the view at the minute by Lower Precinct. So there should be a rejig, almost a restoration of some of those. But this area will change quickly as some of these buildings are hoped to be completed in the next 3 to 4 years as we head back down now towards Shelton Square. Again, some of these buildings were really well designed and planned. All these thin mosaic clad columns, the timbers, this Portland stone cladding the outside of this office block. There's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of thought that went into how these spaces connected. Obviously different architects as the schemes developed. Once you get through to Bullyard, the concrete and the fiberglass fins start to take over, and that will remain as we head up Hertford Street. So as we leave the bottom of Hertford Street, you see the ending of the scheme with these fiberglass panels leading up to Hertford House, also by William Mitchell, in 2 sets of installations between the late 60s and early 70s. These cost about £60,000 back in the day, so significant investment in the public realm. They didn't have this glass canopy as a solid canopy like the rest of the schemes that was added in the 90s. But Hertford House was an office block to finish off the street really, and the pedestrianisation. This used to be a road. You'd drive up Hertford Street above the road that went underneath it. But that was all changed in the late 60s as part of this work. Again, top of Hertford Street, you can see the gradient that will remain in the new development as it goes above the road and lead into the car park. It's funny because there's actually a new intervention here that is by Morag Myerscough, that was for City of Culture, including all the greenery, and the City of Culture shop, which was here. But everything on the right of this view is staying, but everything on the left is gone. So it's a tricky balancing act where at some point there will be sort of 12-storey buildings on this left-hand side. On the right-hand side will remain, and we come to an interesting intersection here between Ford's Hospital, which is one of the oldest buildings in the city that has a route directly through here. Eventually there will be a route that continues on under this building that will be here into the public park, which is where Barracks car park currently is. So there's an interesting before and after that will be here. You'll be faced with massive buildings, but also a view to a new public area. You can see behind me Peeping Tom. We don't actually know who the artist was for that, but it will be moved. It won't be in the scheme because it's a bit strange. And these fiberglass panels coming to an end as you then hit the former ABC Cinema, now H&V Empire, and this ends the scheme pretty much. Again, we're a new development with all this resin as prep work, because you then hit Broadgate, and the people of Coventry sculptures, which Donald Gibson really loved. This was all infilled by Nationwide in the 70s, and it's been opened up again, so you can all pedestrians can walk through to Broadgate now. Again, in the interest of urban mining, these fiberglass panels and the concrete reliefs will be molds have been taken and they'll be going on the buildings that are going in place. So there should be along Hertford Street some buildings with reliefs very similar to these. Up the side of the building, I think they've been taken in metal. These are fiberglass and those are obviously concrete. So yeah, there should be a hint of what was here in the new scheme along Hertford Street. So a lot of the seats and the new colours on the food vendors are new, and Empire is doing very well. But you'll notice as I've walked around, a lot of the shops have moved or are empty because there's been compulsory purchases and things. So a lot of things have moved into the pedestrianised precinct area, and as you can see now, this was just before COVID nationwide was removed, and everyone can walk through to the original sort of Broadgate area.